don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Hi guys, welcome to another I want to say Monday or Tuesday. However, the internet allows me to unload this, but let's just say it's a weekly wonderful mentorship and informational, spiritual, absolutely everything Maren and Michelle episode. So thanks for coming back. We love you so much. We appreciate all the interaction that you guys have with us. And things are, Maren and I were just talking a little bit, as we always do. We start to talk and then we're like, whoa, we've got to record, because then we start to get going with everything. So we were just talking about the energy, and energy is my natural language. That is how I've always understood the world. I was never really able to put it into how to express that to other people, but that is how I feel the world, how I interpret things, is all through energy. And right now, we are in a real increase of energy. And you'll notice that this is being said many times around spiritual conversations, whether you're watching astrology or you're watching any type of conversation around planetary shifts. You're going to hear a lot in the past 2 years: energy speeding up, energy speeding up. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why that is and what's going on. But first of all, hi, Maren. Before I
Hi,
talk too much,
Michelle.
how are you doing? How was your week?
It was very good, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
good.
about yours?
It was really good. It was really busy. It went by so fast. I felt like I closed my eyes and it was the end of the week already. I'm like, how
Yes.
did that happen? So it really is speeding up. Um, I'm sure I'm not the only one that notices that. It just seems to just slip away. But I had a lot of and this is part of why this subject was coming up too, is I had a lot of healing sessions and did a lot of energy work with people, where there was this common denominator of a influx of energy in the upper chakras. And I wasn't really thinking about where we were planetary, where our shifts were. And it was actually just, I think it was this morning or yesterday, that I came to seeing that we had a full moon. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Full moon. And then you had said we're going into Mercury retrograde as well. And so all those things have a really big effect on us.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say was I was looking at my Instagram feed and everybody's kind of panicking about the Mercury retrograde, and there's some other planets in retrograde, and then there's the full moon. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
so this is something I really wanted to talk to you about, because
Mhm.
what do we do,
What do we
Michelle?
do? Yes. And here's the thing too, like, so what I was saying, my language is energy, because I'm not really trained in astrology. I never took any to really have the proper language. So there's so many other people that will have more knowledge when it comes to explaining this planet is in retrograde and we're in this shift and this moon and this house. And I don't really understand that. I can give you some basic understanding, but what I understand is, how do I, like, what is the collective energy? What am I seeing in my own personal energy? And what do I recognize in the world? What do I recognize that's happening? So it's from studying patterns of energy over, a long period of
Yeah.
time that gives me this information. So when we look at full moon energy, really any moon, because we have to remember we're made up of everything that the stars, the planets, water. That's what our body is made up of. That's what we consist of, all of these same gases and electrons and everything. That's what we are. And so, because everything is connected, because everyone is connected, consciousness, we're all part of this big web. When there's shifts that are occurring outside of us, really that's occurring inside of us as well. So we can look at And this is important to remember too. We can look at what's happening with the shifts of energy and use it as a guideline, but be careful not to use it as a reason or as a way to blame what's happening. Because here's the one thing that stands out when you're talking about Instagram and everybody's like, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, it's Mercury retrograde. And that is something that I've noticed that can be a kind of something that can really get bent into, well, this is happening because it's Mercury retrograde. And it can almost create like a superstition around it, where I've seen people get really fearful when Mercury retrograde comes around because the planets are moving backwards, which means, in layman's term, to say it as easy as possible, the energy is moving backwards, or planets are moving backwards, and so therefore everything's going to go wrong. Everything's, I'm going to lose things. It's not a good time to sign contracts. It's not. And so there is, let's just say, a blanket understanding that when the energy is shifting, so Mercury in retrograde, things may be a little more challenging. Now, what I recognize is that communication can be a little bit more difficult. So rather than seeing that, okay, things are going to go wrong in this period of time, I would recommend putting your mindset into, how about I be a little bit more careful during this period of time to make sure that I'm expressing myself clearly, make sure that I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's, to make sure I'm double checking what I'm doing, to ensure that, if you feel, because remember, again, belief is everything. So just like a superstition, if I believe that I'm walking down the street and a black cat crosses my path and that means something bad's going to happen, if that is my belief and that's ingrained
Yeah.
in me, then that's a belief. So could it create something to take place? Yes, because it's coming from your conscious belief. So if you believe that signing a contract or making travel plans during Mercury retrograde is going to create something negative, well, then, it's okay to steer away from that if that's where your belief is in this moment. But another way that you could look at it is, well, if I'm going to be traveling during this period of time, and let's say that I don't have a choice, let's say you have to travel, you only have this window and it's actually in Mercury retrograde, well, then that would be a really good time to double check everything. Just be more meticulous, be mindful. You know, it's not something to be scared of, but of course, there's a lot of jokes because we all know that Mercury retrograde, sometimes can be technical issues. For example, I've had many times where working on the computer, and well, let's be honest, I always have technical problems. Okay, let's just be honest. But when I've got clients or people coming up on the computers, like, there tends to be problems on both ends. And, is that the energy affecting it? Well, yeah. Um, but spirit, because everything is energy, when they move closer to electrical outlets, to lights, to microwaves, to televisions, those things can go wiry. So Mercury retrograde is not something to be afraid of. It's a planetary shift. Now, when we have that coupled with a full moon, so we've got these other energetic shifts taking place, and a full moon is intensity. That's the best way I would describe it.
Oh, okay.
It's an intensity. So we can have an enhanced experience of things, but it's not going to be all the same for everybody. So, Maren, you were just saying before we started talking that for some people it could be an increase of energy, like a speeding up. And for some, it could be a slowing down, like almost
Yeah.
like a lethargic, right? So why would it be that way? Well, because we're all in different places, right? There's none of us, even though we're kind of following along with these collective ideas of where we are on the planet, because we're all on the planet. but consciously and where we are in our spiritual growth and in our life. And of course, each one of us has a individual blueprint of what we're expressing here in the world. We're going to experience things differently. So, for example, if we've got somebody who has um, no conscious awareness of any of this, okay, so we all know people in our lives who wouldn't even think to watch a video like this or really has anything to do with anything outside of, morning, noon, and night, my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and go to work, come home, which is completely fine. That's no problem. But that person is still going to be influenced by the energy because they're human, they're here, they have a consciousness, they're existing. And would they say have a harder time? They may not have the understanding of what's taking place. They still have a chakra system. So they could still be, let's say if they're not in their body, they have a lot of stress. They're deflecting something in their life. They're avoiding something in their life. And so they might be up in the upper chakras. They might be disconnected from their reality. So they would maybe still be, if I can get my words right, still be experiencing the world where they're out of balance. And so they would experience some stress, some anxiety. They may have a speeding up of energy and intensity. So the things in their life that they need to look at or that would help them shift in their life would be magnified. So let's say if it's, for some reason, I'm thinking of a male that has difficulty in his marriage or in his relationship, and he is avoiding dealing with this issue in his relationship. And so he is playing video games or doing something that is taking him into this upper space and disconnecting from the heart and from facing, we'll say the root chakra, from facing family, security. I'm trying to explain what I'm seeing in my head, so I don't know if this is coming out right, but let's say
I
that.
have to shut my door really quickly.
Okay, go
My
ahead.
kids are singing in the hall, and I can hear them. It is so distracting. I'm
I
so sorry.
couldn't. No, you go ahead.
My dog poked his head through the door and opened it. Okay, one second.
It'll give me a second to put my thoughts together here.
Okay, I know that's what I figured. It would give you a second. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry, that
So
was so distracting.
no, that's fine. And this is exactly it. Like
I know, and I was like, it's Mercury retrograde.
it explains that these are kinds of the things that take place. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that, somebody doesn't have to have knowledge of all of this information. They're still affected by the energy. And so
Yeah.
I'm trying to give the example of what could be happening in someone's life and how they are reactive. So let's say, for example, this guy who's been disassociating from his life and say in more of a fantasy space, there may be something that occurs around the full moon period that makes him not be able to ignore what's going on. He could have knowledge that his wife or the person he's in the relationship with has been having an affair with somebody. Okay. So maybe I'm being a little extreme with this, but these are the
that's
types
what
of
I
things that can
Googled.
come up.
Yeah. When I Googled Mercury retrograde, because I was like, what is this? It says it doesn't create problems. It brings to light the problems.
Exactly.
So the affair was always there.
Yes.
He is now just learning about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why there's no need to be afraid of full moons and of shifts and of Mercury retrograde or anything, because the beauty that we have is we have the ability to be aware in every moment to the best of our ability and to work on how we feel. Now, what was being brought forward, kind of getting back to what I was experiencing with a lot of people this week, was because there's an influx of energy, and a lot of those that I've been working with are really working on their spiritual path. They're working on their connection with spirit. And so what the collective, we'll say the collective issue has been, is that there's a lot of buildup taking place as in our human life. So the day-to-day stuff. And I too understand this, because when you are one foot in one world, one foot in another world, it's consistent balance of, reminding ourselves, I'm a human being. Like, I am here having a human experience, and there are real life things that I'm doing. So I can't always be up here and in my head
Yeah.
and having conversations with other realms and working in these other spaces. And so it can be really tempting to pull away from that part of ourselves and
Yeah.
to live up here. And what that can also do is, this is known as like spiritual bypassing or spiritual deflection, which is another thing that can be something to just be mindful of, because it's very easy to start to get very excited about the sped up energy that takes place when we're connecting, when we're having these really amazing experiences, realizations, when we're having all this new information come in. It can feel very fast and exciting, and so then our day-to-day life starts to become less exciting. And so there can be a pulling away of that. So what can happen is the moons, the Mercury retrograde, these type of shifts help bring us back into that area. So it can be a little reminder like, hello, there's something going on over here. So we're just going to take your attention and we're going to turn it over here and we're going to have you pay attention to it. And so it's really nothing to be afraid of, because everything will always, no matter what takes place, and do remember this, no matter what disruption takes place in your life, everything is meant for your good at the end of the day. So you may have to go through some discomfort. You may have to go through some things that, you'd rather not. But if you trust and you walk through it and walk through that disruption, that experience, that whatever occurs, there will always be something on the other side of it that you'll say, I see. Well, that had to happen so that this could happen later on. And you may not
Yeah.
know that right in the moment. You might not know that for 6 months down the road, but it always will, because nothing in this world will happen for you that is not for your benefit. But it's your choice to hold on to that. It's your choice to believe that.
Yeah.
So do you have some questions about all of this?
No, I just like, as you were saying it, I could just relate so much of that to my life. So excited that's going to get charged up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's so funny. So like, as I've been having my awakening in that higher energy, you're right, you get stuck up here.
Mhm.
And there have been times where I'm like, I can feel myself up here and I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, like I've gotta bring this back down, because I'm like, literally, I feel like I'm floating in the clouds. Like I'm just so detached from
Mhm.
my life that's going on,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
um, and so like some things that have helped me along the way are, well, oh my gosh, I will say this, which has not been good. Like eating sometimes helps,
Yeah.
and that's not
Yes.
good. I feel like
You're
I've gained
right.
so much weight since this happened.
You're right though, because it's very grounding, right?
Yeah.
Food is grounding.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I know.
But some healthier strategies I've done, have been, it's so funny. I just posted about this, so I feel like we're in alignment, is like, putting your feet in the grass. And then, so yesterday I was like sitting on my patio and I just had this, I said, hey, Eric, what should I post about? And he gave me this image of like me, like putting my feet in the sand. And I was like, yeah, that is so true. You don't have to always like go to the grass. You can do visualizations
Yes.
of putting your feet in the sand. And so I did that. So pretended, I visualized putting my feet in the sand, and then just listened to the like oceanic sound of my
Mhm.
breath.
Mhm.
And that was very grounding and
Yes.
really helped me. And like, I don't know, I don't always want to think about grass and roots, like to think about the beach is kind of
Yes.
nice. Maybe
Yes.
like you connect with that more.
Yes.
So that was one of the ways. And then, yeah, yoga has really helped me because,
Yeah.
again, you connect with your breath.
Yeah.
And so I'll just do like the very basic, like sun salutation.
Mhm.
It's like a maybe 5-step like little cycle, and you can do it like in 30 seconds, and I'll just do like a couple rounds of that, and like immediately I feel like brought back. So
Yeah.
so those are some things that have helped me when I feel like I get up here. um
I
yeah,
really like when you were saying about the when Eric said give you the visualization of the sand, because that's important to remember too, because maybe not everybody has access to go out and step
the
in
grass. Yeah,
or the grass or whatever, and it has that same value.
yeah,
You may not be having the tactile experience, but if each of us can recognize the power of what we create, and
yeah,
that we are creating something, we're putting something crystalline into the energetic field. When we do that, it has reaction. Every action has a reaction, so it will be of benefit. Absolutely.
yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah. Also, I like it too because it's like, we will give suggestions and it might not work for you. And then don't just blow it off.
Right,
Try to like tweak it a little bit so that
right.
it fits you and it creates a, and you just have to listen to your body. Like, is this giving me the outcome that I wanted? No.
Hmm.
Okay. What would? Well, I really
Hmm.
like sand, or, I
Yeah.
really like blankets and
Yes.
feeling, covered by blankets.
Yes.
So whatever it
Yes.
is that makes you feel grounded, then visualize that or actually do it.
Exactly. It could be a really hot cup of tea, like food, exercise, yoga is awesome, is really good. What Spirit has shared with me is that yoga not only can bring us into the body, but helps us balance that core, puts that energy into the center part of our body. Because what Spirit has shared with me is that, we're looking to create, and so I was saying to you, Maren, before we were recording, um, we're not looking to pull all the energy down in the bottom. We're looking to create a balance in the center. So, not having all of our energy up top, not having it all down here, but to create in the center. Because life itself, our experience in life is up and down, up and down. And it will always be. And we have to be able to understand that we're not trying to get to a place where we no longer react from life, or that we no longer experience the ups and downs of life. The point of having our energy balanced is the more and more we work on it, the more we start to create this momentum of being able to pull our energy into the center core so that we can navigate the ups and downs of life much easier. So then
Yeah.
we're not in a state of all the time, or in a state of all the time.
Yeah.
We can feel this more of an even type energy, and it allows us to uh, create more, to have our eyes open to more choice, clarity, clarity of seeing, hearing, feeling, clarity of experience in the world, and clarity of out of the world, because we want to be part of the world, but not actually in the world. We want to be able to walk with an observer type energy without being in the chaos of everything.
Mhm.
And so putting your energy, whether you do that, with the, uh, like with what Maren was saying, by stepping in the sand, well, use your visualization and put that energy into the center area of your body. So your center of gravity. So think about that. You think about how the earth is and the equator, right? And so
Yeah.
you think about the polarity of the earth. Now look at your body as as the earth, and then take the energy at the top and the bottom and start to move it into the center so that you're balanced, right? And so you can do that with visualization.
Okay.
And
Is that like a chakra balancing? Is that a meditation you would do for chakra
sure,
balancing?
you could, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
With chakra balancing, sometimes, um, like if I go in to help somebody with a balance, sometimes a person can have a few chakras that are spinning really nice and doesn't need anything, and it could be helping them balance just one part or another part. So this is also something intuitively, because a lot of people will be like, well, I don't know exactly what to do to balance my chakras, or I'm not quite sure how I do that. So you do it by actually going in and using your intuitive ability. Go in and say, go into your root chakra and visualize that red center, and then ask to be shown, where is that at? And let go of expectation of how that needs to look. So you might get a full feeling, or you might just get it, it's fine, or you might get you need to ground yourself. There's different things that you can do for each chakra, but balancing them is more of from my experience, is aligning them, having them spin, and balancing comes from helping guide somebody in their life what they can do that's connected to that energy center. And so, because I focus a lot on the energy and the emotions and the mental state, so I would then say to somebody, if their heart chakra were out of alignment, a lot of times the heart chakra is connected to the self-love for that person. So they may need to, do a little radical self-care for themselves, because it's often very hard to receive love and to experience and accept love when that love is not being received from the self or
Mhm.
given from the self. So,
So I have a question. Sometimes I'll like I'll either like touch a person or I'll see their name or whatever, and I'll blink and I'll see a color.
mhm.
Does that mean that that chakra is really good? Or when they're like operating on that chakra, or does that mean that chakra needs something? Or is that just random?
No, it's definitely not random. It's information that you're being given. So what I would do is ask, because it can
Okay.
be a little different for who it is that you're connecting with and why.
Okay.
So when you see that, so for example, if you're seeing yellow with a person, is that person needing strength? Is that person needing strength? Is that person needing help trusting within themselves? Is that person ill, needing prayer? So that's going to take a little bit of investigation for each one, because there is reason for that. Now, you may notice that you're starting to get certain colors with people to identify the state that they're in overall, right? So if you're connecting with someone and you get their name and you see the color pink, well, if pink to you is a loving angelic energy, so that may be what you're connecting with that person.
Okay.
You will notice, if you ask spirit to show you the difference. So ask them to show you, you know, whether it's something that they need, or if you're, observing a state, ask them to show you the differences in colors, because that's part of where the investigative part comes for you and your spirit team, because you're building a Rolodex of information.
Okay.
And so for me to tell you exactly what that means, I can tell you what that means to me, right? I can tell you how that comes up for me. And I can tell you basically, Eric's, okay, hold on. Eric says that it's information for you. He says a lot of times it's information just to observe. But if you feel intuitively a nudge, so if you're asking about somebody, if that person's just coming into your mind, he says, well, it's up to you to decide whether you want to take that one step further and investigate into that. Is there something that that person needs from me? What does that color mean to me? And he says, and what that's doing is that's building your knowledge. So building your, he says, toolbox of information. And that's how you do it, because you're going to get information. Like, some people look at people and see, they might see like a muddiness where the chakras can be, or they see spots in the body. So they are able to identify, you know, where they are ill or they see illness. Like there's different things that everybody does. And the only way that they could discover that is by questioning it and then say communicating with that person and asking questions and starting to kind of build that information. And spirit will always give you what you need. So if you're not being given something at the moment, then it's okay. Just bypass it. Because if it's something that you need, it will keep coming back.
Okay.
They'll take many different, Eric says, will knock you over the head many different ways until you get
He
the
knows I need
information that it's
that.
something that
Yeah.
you need. He does too.
Uh,
Yeah.
he's funny.
Yeah.
He's hung around me a lot this week, and he's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and so funny when you say like just ask and investigate. That's something I've been working on because after our blocks episode,
Yeah.
when I see orbs, I'll be like, I see an orb, but I don't know who that is. And then I just like move on, you know, or I'll be like, I see a face and I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, and so I'm like, oh, that's a block. Like I need to say, who are you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that now. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get answers now. So
Good.
that's
Good.
cool.
Good. That's very good. And it's amazing because what Eric has always taught me is that when we turn corners by just changing our perspective of things
Mm-hmm.
and changing how we look at it and starting to work a little differently. And it's all of these little gentle turns in
Mm-hmm.
how we look at things or how we relate to them. And they can have really big effects when we start to do them. And he says we realize that this whole journey is all inside of us. All
Mm-hmm.
inside of us. We're really the ones with all the control. Nobody else is going to press any magic buttons all over the place. You know, it's the
Well, what do you
Eric.
say?
Eric, he's wearing one of those vests with buttons that says like detonate. Like
Oh, yeah, well, that's so funny. That's like the hardest thing about this whole journey is that there's no, like when you were like, well, you're going to have to investigate yours. I can tell you what I do for mine. And I'm like, I want to be like, hey, spirits, whatever Michelle does, like just do that too. So I can figure it out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But they don't do that. Like you have
no,
to figure it out on your own.
yeah,
There's no like guidebook, no rule book, and no direction book. And
no.
that's like been the hardest thing. And like with the blocks, we were like, and then you heal. And it's like, we want to be like, okay, well, I found a block and now I just want to remove it. And it's like, you have to do the healing work and there's no directions. Like, we can't tell you what to do. You have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the hardest thing.
It is, and you know, and sometimes, like we were talking last week, sometimes there can be something that's been blocking us and we discover it and we change it and that's it. And we really never have any issues with it again. We're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And then something else comes up and we think we have it licked. And then we realize we don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute here. Why is this worked here and this doesn't work here? But that's really part of that navigation and trust because what I found like in the beginning of my journey, and I always say consciously, my awakening, I wanted to rush to the finish line. So I
Yeah.
would always envision a finish line of where I thought I should be. And I was being told all the time, no, 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 because you get to one finish line, you're going to see another finish line. And there's going to be another one. I'd be like, oh my, can't there just be one finish line? And I just get to that and then all is happy and everything's great. But that's just not the way it works. And Eric just says, and just think of this. He goes, when there's a finish line in physical life, that still keeps going. It still keeps going, but you just become more and more open because you continue to grow. But it really is about the journey. And when people say it's about the journey, not the destination, well, that is so true. It really is because when we start to become out of the space of expectation and we start to really enjoy what we're experiencing. So the work that we do the experience, the growth, the getting right in there, and like Eric says, getting your hands dirty, getting right in there and working with it, that becomes self-fulfilling in itself. Because when you start to really commit to something, and Eric just said, each and every person should have some sort of practice that they dedicate themselves to. And when he says that, your practice could be that you're saying, I love myself each morning. It doesn't have to be something big and shiny or whatever. It just, whatever you can commit yourself to, is to have something. Then when you start to realize by committing to something that you're making change in your life, you'll realize that you can make more change in your life than anything on the outside of you has ever done. And that becomes, just as you know, absolutely amazing in itself. And then you start to lose that sense of, I need to be at a certain place, or I need to get to here. And if you can really start to close your eyes to where other people are at and look at other people as guides, whether in the physical or the non-physical, everyone is a guide. And so you have the ability to accept what's the opposite of accept? Deflect? No. You can
Deny.
Yes, deny. Thank you. You can either resonate with something or not. And that goes the same with your guides too. So keep in mind, your guides are going to give you information. And if you don't like what the information is, or it doesn't feel right, you don't have to do it. You don't have to take that into mind. You can take it and say, thank you. Okay. I'm going to think about that, or I'm going to work on that, but it's up to you if you want to take it or not. And so keep that in mind, that is for everything. And what Eric's just saying is that what your guides want for you is for you to not be dependent on anything on the outside of you. And that includes your guides. And what he means by that is not running to your guides and asking for the answer for everything. Because the whole idea of this process is so that you can become confident in what you know from who you are and what's right for you. And you'll notice that the guidance and what you need will continue to fill itself in as you need it. But that really is a process of trust. But anyway, the whole point of that is, it really is about the journey. It really is. And the more you allow yourself to be in that space, the more beautiful and colorful and exciting that becomes. And the finish lines just keep showing up. They just keep coming, because when you pay attention over here takes care of itself. So
I love that.
yeah. So anything else that you can think of? Any other questions?
Nope. I was just going to say, just kind of try to recap everything I learned. So in conclusion, because we're energetic bodies, we're impacted by the energy shifts of the universe, and including the planets and the moon. And so because this weekend, I think this weekend is a full moon plus this would be this previous weekend, because we're posting this Monday. It is today.
Yeah.
So because this past weekend was a full moon plus Mercury retrograde, plus I'm pretty sure some other planets, we're getting impacted, and it makes us hard to control our energy, and it kind of aligns in different places in our chakras, right? And so you can either be too lethargic or too anxious, or hey, maybe it doesn't affect you. You never know. It could be one of those special people. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or you're just not aware. But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just you just got to use those techniques that we talked about to, I love I was thinking about I love the equator, and bringing it in. I almost felt like, you see that picture of, like, I don't know, when Earth began or whatever, and it's like, and it has the light goes this way and then the light goes that way.
Yes.
I was like, that's kind of what I feel like I would imagine if I did like if I did that meditation. But anyways, and then so do some meditations, yoga, exercise, could eat a little.
And like eat this is another thing that came up this week a lot, and this is something I'm working really hard on because my husband and I have both had some health issues, and I had some recent attention put to my liver and my liver health, and part of that is because I've had chemo in the past and been on
Yeah.
medications and that. So I'm really working at detoxifying my food and everything. And, you
Yeah.
know, so something that has come up a great deal is the conversation of, do I eat meat? Do I not eat meat? Do I eat this? Do I not eat that? Like a real concern about, am I eating the right foods for my vibration? And what I can say to that is food is grounding, food is good. Eat the food that your body is drawn to. And, you know, yes, processed foods are harder for your body to digest. The more that your vibration rises, it collects toxins in your body. There's so many things that are in prepackaged foods and in the processing. Even with our fruits and vegetables that we buy from the grocery store, a lot of them have had some treatment or air pollution or whatever has been sprayed on them at some point. So there's always going to be a little bit that we get into our body from the environment. But, if you can try to eat as natural as possible and don't kick yourself if you are a meat eater, if you are drawn to eating meat and it makes your body feel better, you know, don't kick yourself for it. What Eric says is if that's what you're doing and that's where you're at right now, bless your food. Be grateful for the food. Be grateful because there is a consciousness that is connected to all foods and plants and everything. So use gratitude with the food and allow it to nourish your body. Take that in. Another tip is you can put crystals in your water. You can bless your water before you drink it. Something that I like to do with detoxifying my liver is I'll have a water with lemon in it, and as I'm drinking it, I envision it going right through my body, cleansing the cells and cleansing the
Yeah.
liver and everything. So there's a lot of things when it comes to diet that you really have to be where you're at and be okay with where it's at, because just so you know, I am by no means this, like, coming to you saying to this that I am a clean eater and that I am on my way. I'm in a process of changing my eating and for my family. But we can't jump from one lily pad to the one way over here. You have to accept that this is where I'm at today. So I can only go day by day and ask my body, what am I drawn to? And if I've got a piece of chocolate in front of me and I've got an apple in front of me, if I really want that chocolate and I'm going to take that chocolate, then I'm going to have it and I'm going to let go of the guilt. I'm going to do my
Yeah.
best to choose what's best for me every time. So I might have one less piece of chocolate in a week. As you know, I'm just saying that chocolate is a little bit of a downfall for me.
I heard it's very grounding. So
And
maybe that's
dark chocolate. I don't keep it in the house anymore. If I want it, I do buy dark chocolate, but I have this little bit of a weakness for almond butter and dark chocolate. And I really like it on an apple. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's really good. Like just taking a little bit of it and just spreading it on thin pieces of apple.
Yeah, I love that.
That's decadent. Anyway,
That sounds
but
awesome.
the food thing is, but it is really grounding. Food is really grounding, and it's something that that's part of our physical life too. That is something that where we're at in our evolution right now. There's so much that goes around food, like celebration and um, you know, emotions. There's many different
Mhm.
complexities when it comes to food. So be really gentle with yourself. if that's where you're at with the food part of things, because that's where we can build up a lot of shame in that
Yeah.
area too.
I ever since I had I think as a young adult, I had a lot of shame about eating. But ever since I had my first child and I saw what my body could do, I was like, I will never put my body down. So I've never been on, since kids, I've never been on a diet. I've never felt bad about eating. But there was something that Eric said in an episode a long, long time ago about like leafy greens and like eating greens and eating what's good for your body. And so I've always looked at food that way as like just I'm so happy to be putting this healthy food into my body to feed my like system. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But since this awakening, I have not like meat just doesn't do it for me. Pork is like the only like meat that I still feel like I'm okay to eat. So yesterday I was buying some chicken nuggets for the kids and I bought them at Trader Joe's and it was like a new one. It looked really good. And so I bought it. And I just microwaved them and I just was like, I need some food too. So I microwaved some for me and some for my son.
Yeah.
And then he ate like, poor guy, he ate like all of them. I ate two. And my second one, I took a bite and I was like, why is it pink in the middle? And then I was like, oh my gosh, these aren't pre-cooked chicken nuggets. These are the chicken nuggets
Oh no.
you have to cook in the oven.
I've done that.
And I was like, I'm sorry, I spit it out and I was like, oh my gosh. I like me and meat is just, I was like, that was like definitely, I cannot connect to meat anymore. This was a sign.
Well,
So
I'll tell you something funny about that is I when I was younger, the only meat that I wouldn't eat was veal. Right? I just would not eat veal. But it was when I got pregnant with my first daughter, I had an aversion to meat. Like I could not look at meat. It didn't matter. Like spaghetti, it had meat in it. Mm-mm. Chicken, nothing. If I saw the bone of anything, no. And I remember every time I go grocery shopping, I would avoid the entire meat section or anything even close to it. So I would come home with like cottage cheese and bread and crackers and like my husband would be like, did you like is there anything else? Like, but I couldn't do it. And I'm still so once in a while I can eat a little bit of beef and a little bit of chicken, but I can't eat anything with the bone. But we're not really big meat eaters. We used to be. I don't eat pork. I just have never really been able to. But I the same like I find that that is really shifting. And since my husband has had some health issues, he part of his diet is he's been reducing meat. So he might have like he went on a trip with a bunch of guys and they had burgers while he was there and that. But on a day-to-day basis, we don't, other than chicken, I think is the only thing that we ever really cook on a regular basis. But
yeah. Well, my husband is still a meat eater.
mhm,
And then I really can't palate it unless it's like smothered in
mhm, mhm,
sauces, which
mhm,
obviously then makes it not healthy.
mhm.
So, and then I'm like you, where I'm like, I go to the grocery store and I don't want to buy meat. So I'm buying like bread and crackers, some fruits and
Well,
vegetables.
and I think, Maren, as a lot of meat gets stored in the freezer, and once you've had an experience of certain things being put in your freezer, you can no longer look at things the same, and that really does affect the body and the taste buds. I suppose I should let everybody
You
in on this.
definitely should, because that's a good
Okay,
story.
I'll just tell y'all. So my daughter is my eldest daughter. She has wanted a snake since she was a like tiny girl. Like, I think she was maybe 2, 3 years old when she first started talking about it, and she never let go of it. On her, I can't remember what birthday it was several years ago, but she had a birthday party where we had a friend of ours is an expert. He breeds reptiles, and he came in for her birthday, did a reptile show, and brought iguanas and snakes and like all different things. And she was just begging me for a snake. Well, I knew enough to know that they do need, like, you know, the temperature and the tanks and all the extra care and that. And I was not in a position where I wanted to do that. No, we've got a dog, cats, and we've got other animals, and I'm totally good with them. But I wasn't really good with taking care of a reptile. So I said to her, you know, when you get older and you're making your own money or whatever, if you want to do that, then that's totally up to you. Well, an opportunity came along about a month ago where friends of ours that are breeders were changing careers, and one of them was going back to school, and they offered her a really beautiful snake, and all the equipment and everything to go with it. It was like an opportunity of a lifetime for her. Couldn't turn it down. So she brought the snake home. And of course, I didn't really think much about the feeding process. I just, you know, it's not my thing. I don't, make a long story short, she thought it would be a wise idea to go and pick up food for the snake and to have it on hand to feed. And it was a better deal to buy a few rats rather than one. So my downstairs
does seem like, you know, a good plan. Like, I don't want to
it's
go,
sensible. It's sensible, and
right?
she's
Yeah.
thinking ahead, you know,
Yeah.
and she's being sensible. And it was a better deal to buy like 6 than it was to buy one. And anyway, and mind you, it's not like lying out. It's wrapped in a package and in a container and the whole bit. But my downstairs freezer has no food in it, just so you know, because I can't do it. I can't do it, but there are frozen rats in my freezer. And
Mm.
I said to Maren, I was telling her about this before, and I'm like, I have just lost my appetite. There is no chance in the world that I can go down to my freezer and grab something out of the downstairs freezer, knowing that in the other compartment there are rats. And that's just me. You know, I'm all about the cycle of life and everything. So my suggestion to my daughter was, when these are gone, I think going forward, if I have to drive you or take
6
you,
weeks.
yeah, take you per week or whatever we need to do to feed this, I said, we're no longer going to store them in the freezer. So that'll be a really good excuse for me to have the freezer defrosted and cleaned all out.
Yeah. How many more weeks do you have left of rats?
4. Ask me if I've opened up the freezer and even looked. No, just nothing gets put in there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dear
it's
Claire.
just
That is just
the thought. Every time I pass
Mm.
by it, every time I pass by, I think about it. That's just me. I know there's lots of people that wouldn't even bother them, but oh, they're just, I just can't. Just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
tough.
yeah. So that's my story. That's my story. But anyway, guys, I hope all of you navigate the Mercury retrograde and the moon
Energy. Yeah.
cycle and everything really well. We love and appreciate each and every one of you, and we so love communicating with you. And hopefully we get this up by Monday. But you know what? If it gets up on Tuesday, because there's something with the uploads, and I don't know what happens. I upload them on Monday, and
Screenshots, and she's like, it's here. I don't know what's going on.
they seem to they sit on YouTube uploading forever, and then for some reason it'll stop uploading, and then I have to go back in. So I end up going to sleep on Monday night and it's still uploading, and then it finishes off on Tuesday. So if that happens and you're seeing it on Tuesday, you'll know why. But we'll have a weekly video, not to worry.
Yes.
All right. Well, Maren, you have a great rest of your weekend. And
you
you
too.
guys enjoy your week, and we will see you next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.